you let me love you forever, forever. I wanna love you. Will you let me love you forever, forever and a day, 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 day.
You.
Woohoo! Happy
Catching
Sunday,
up.
Sunday.
Yes, happy Sunday.
Y'all, we're back. Linda, 90 Day the Melanated Way with my co-host. And I want to try to point the right way. That way. That way. That's Abby. That's Abby. That's Abby right there. And we're back with the original 90 Day Fiance, season 11, episode 5, Love is Not Enough. And we're catching up on all things 90 days. Hey, Rodella. Hey, girl. Hey, fam. Hey, fam. Listen, when I tell you, Abby, that Rodella conned me so much at the Long Beach Grand Prix, I will have to share that story. But
Yes, you will.
Let's just say food and flirting were involved, and Rodella caught it all on camera.
Oh, Raydella. Put it on the TikTok. Put it on the YouTube. Put it everywhere.
Yeah, let's not put it everywhere. Let's just say there are Hawkeyes everywhere. The boomers see everything. That being said, you guys, also, can we all say how beautiful Abby looks with her new look right here? Hello, highlights. Hello, boho braids. Hello, beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes. Rodella says, yes, we do. Yes, you do, Rodella. Yes, you do. Boomers.
She didn't miss a beat.
And when I saw her text, I was like, oh, Lord. And then there were pictures. I was like, oh, Lord.
Were these American men?
Were these American men?
Is that too much information?
It was a American man.
Ooh.
Just one specific one.
All right, I'm intrigued. Everybody's intrigued. But
yeah, I was intrigued too. Rodella said, I'm Nosely and I proudly own it. Yes, you are. You and your niece got me in a situationship. All right, let's jump in. Love is Not Enough. What were your overall thoughts on episode 5?
I, first of all, just love the OG 90 Day so much. And I feel like this cast is bringing us back to the real intent of the 90 Day series. So I love this episode. I mean, an overarching theme for me is the partners not preparing their home and their families for receiving their immigrant partner. That can be done better in almost every single one of these situations. But great entertainment.
I love it because one of the things that I think that is like a stereotype is like how great America is and like land of the opportunity and everything looks like Beverly Hills 90210 and all this stuff. But then every city in America is not like that. So wherever they land, I find that part really fascinating because they do get a shock to their system. And because this is really paralleling the 90 Day from yesteryear, you're seeing a lot of those same like strange reactions, and that's kind of like my favorite part.
Right. It seems like they don't do a very good job of having people go outside and look at their surroundings, like get on FaceTime, go outside in your neighborhood, look at your surroundings. And instead they're like, hey, this isn't California. This isn't New York.
Yeah. I kind of love it though, because it's like, yeah, it smells like cow, poo-poo, dung, and all the things, but here you are. Welcome to America.
Right.
Well, trees and rain. Oh, but welcome to America.
Right.
I love everything about it. So let's start with Shekinah and Sarper. One of the things that I thought was interesting is that they're on their way to America. They're at the airport. And, you know, Shekinah was super worried about Sarper getting through immigration, but really she should have worried about herself because of all the surgeries she's had. She doesn't look like her passport anymore. And I thought of you immediately because with all like the new stringent regulations, especially when you're traveling in the US, you have to have like a
Real
smart
ID.
real ID,
Mhm.
passport, this, all the things. You're traveling abroad and you're an immigrant, you have to have your green card and all the things. So I thought it was interesting and I wanted to get your perspective on it, Abby, where let's say you have your passport. Your passport is like, I don't know about you all, but for Canada, you have a 10-year passport. So you may not look the same in 10 years, but when you add like surgeries and like cutting and Botox and all the things, how does immigration in the US deal with that?
They're going to look for markers of identity. They take photos of you. You know, a lot of people think that if they opt out of the photo going through immigration, that the US has like not access of their data. No, they're accessing data points all throughout the time that you're going through CBP.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll do that first. And if they legitimately cannot find enough matching data points in your appearance, then they're going to start looking for other things to match who you are in your documents. So hopefully, you know, it sounded like she didn't have an issue this time, but she maybe has had issues previously. She needs to just make sure she keeps all of her documents updated with what she looks like. Okay, I mean, like, I changed my hair a decent amount, not as much as like, you know, the most fashionable person. And I've never had an issue going through immigration. So, you know, they're
Yes.
aware. They're aware. The issue that I had this time that we won't go like too much into is I was worried because there is an executive order that is still active right now, specifically targeting immigration attorneys. And so this time going out of the country, I was a little bit worried that some of my speech against this administration might be an issue coming in. So I had already prepared a G28, which is notice to a representation. And a friend of mine who's an immigration attorney was holding it for me just in case I had any issues coming back in, because we have heard credible stories, not just random internet, TikTok people talking about it, but credible stories in my circles of immigration attorneys who have had their phones taken away from them, who've been questioned on different speech that they've had, either against this administration or against a particular country in the Middle East. And have been questioned on that. So I was already prepared for that coming back into the US this time.
All fair points. All fair points. And you guys just research. Do your research before you travel. That's my best advice to you all in these uncertain times. So they're about to get a flight to the US and they're on this flight, long flight, obviously. I don't know if any of you guys have been on like 15 plus hour flights, but my advice is take the red eye because you'll sleep halfway through, you'll wake up, you'll get served some breakfast, you'll drink some drinks, you'll fall back asleep and watch a couple of movies and you'll be there. But when you're like up bright and early, it just makes the time change, especially when you're traveling forward and you're flying a whole day ahead. So you skip a whole day while you're in the air. It does make it hard, which is what Sarper was saying, that the flight was torture. It was 14 hours. He thought it was brutal. There's no way he would ever do this ever again for Shekinah. Meanwhile, she's been to Turkey 7 times. So she's done that back and forth 14 times. And he respects her for it. And I just thought it was funny because people who have not been on long flights like that, you don't realize that it's hard. It's a hard flight.
It is. It's not just luxury.
It's not, especially if you're not flying luxury. If you're just flying like a regular person, it's a little difficult. You don't have like the little sleep cabins, first class, all the things. You're just like a regular person. You got a person beside you and another person beside you and like 5 people down the middle row and another 3 people down that row. It's a lot going on.
People
right?
are snoring, kids are screaming. Some people don't smell good.
All of it.
There's a lot happening, but at least on Turkish Airlines, they have a few regular sized bathrooms, so that helps
And
them.
you get free wine, unlimited. There's Wi-Fi.
How do you know this about the free wine, Linda? There's a story there, isn't it?
Well, because all the trips, I'll have the free wine. I'll have the free wine because the wine will make me sleepy and then I'll fall asleep. I
Mhm.
definitely take like a red eye. I'll have like one extra glass more than my regular, pass out, whoop, 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 sleep for like 8 hours, wake up. It's like morning, but it's not morning, but you're having breakfast. You have a little coffee, you watch a movie, boom, you're there.
Yeah. So I thought it was really good that Sarper was recognizing Shekinah's sacrifice in this moment
Yeah.
that he had not appreciated before. Sarper's growing on me.
Listen, I don't know. He's definitely grown on me. He had like a whole personality change. While she's getting all these nips and tucks, like his personality went through a whole nip and tuck. I'm not sure if it's just because he's more I don't know what it is. But the Sarper we met for a season to this one, who's funny, he's got a sense of humor, who's a little bit more humble. It's definitely 360.
Right.
180? I don't know.
Yeah, 180. 360.
So they land, they're in Los Angeles. I'm assuming LAX because it looked like LAX. She decides that she wants to do like public displays of affection. What I caught from this little moment was the makeup all over his shirt and how guys complain like when women have so much makeup on and then you hug them and it's like all over their shirt. That's what distracted me. So they were having a special moment, but I was stuck on his shoulder because like all her makeup was like down his shoulder.
Yep.
That's what distracted. That's all I could see. Despite he was like, I'm a virgin when it comes to public kissing. And she's like, well, that's the only thing you're a virgin to, which we know his whole history, which I thought was a funny moment.
That was funny.
Yeah. So then Shekinah's having some thoughts about 90 days being enough time to get married. He needs to meet her friends, her family, her daughter. One of the things, again, we see so often, especially if you've never been to Hollywood, that everything is not what you see on TV. It's not the movies. It's not Beverly Hills. It's not the Hollywood sign. It's real life, real people. And a lot of people have immigrated to Hollywood from different parts of all over. And not everyone is filthy rich. Not everyone is, living la vida loca. They're working 2-3 jobs, trying to chase their dreams, all the things. And I think Shekinah is not far from that. Although, like, she presents herself as hoity-toity, but she lives in a small apartment, and her apartment is her live workspace. So she doesn't even have, right now, as of this moment, episode 5, she doesn't have a studio that she goes to. She has her clients come to her house, which is literally like a studio. Right? And not a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, not a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It's a studio apartment. Her bed's in the middle of the room, and she works out of that room as well. And I thought that was really important to share because, I think the saying is like keeping up with the Joneses. Like, yeah, she's getting all of this stuff done, and yeah, you might think she's like filthy rich, but really, she's just trying to make it happen. And I thought that was interesting, Abby. What were your thoughts on that?
So I thought on the one hand, maybe she's being smart with her money because we know for a long time she was just living off of alimony. So maybe she's just being smart with her money by not having a big space and not renting a studio. On the other hand, I, again, don't think that she properly prepared her partner for what he was walking into, right? Because when she says it's my work live space, I think most of us would picture a desk in the corner, right? She has massive amounts of esthetician equipment all over the room. She should have said it's my workspace. It's my workspace because you don't cook there. She doesn't want smells in there, which makes sense to me. I understand that. So it's not really a space where you can live in.
Yeah, I don't think it's that. I think that that's where she is in her life, and she's trying to build a business, and it takes money to build a business. And I think that she's just in the beginnings.
Yeah.
Because, and I say that because she goes to pick up her dogs, Teddy and Adonis, at her friend Janae's house, and Janae lives in a mansion. So Janae lives what everyone thinks Hollywood looks like: mansion, celebrity, all the things. She has all the trends. So ribeye and brisket are her house cows, which is, I mean, I guess it's a thing, but honestly, like, I don't think really.
For what? But just go backwards just a little bit. So she kind of did irritate me a little bit at the airport because she said 90 days is not enough. It's not enough time he has to meet my family, my daughter, blah, blah, blah. People don't really conceptualize the 90 days of what it's supposed to be. The idea for 90 days is to plan your wedding. The idea for the 90 days is not to be dating each other and still getting to know each other. A lot of people think this is okay. This is a time for us to just be together in person to decide if we really like each other, want to get married. No, that's not what the purpose of it is. The purpose is this is the amount of time that they give you to plan your wedding. That is what USCIS designed this application for. Say hi, Taylor.
It's just me, Linda, per usual. Agreed. So, and I think that that's what we're missing. We've been watching 90 Day for so long that we forgot about that really it's about the wedding process, because so many of these couples are using the distance and the K-1 visa process in order to just be together, and then they want to learn about each other, and then they feel pressured because they have 90 days to also plan a wedding. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So yeah, ribeye and brisket, the house cows. If you're watching the live chat, let me know what you guys think of house cows, and if you would ever have a house cow. Watching the replay, definitely let Abby and I know what you would do. Would you have a house cow, Abby?
If I was going to at some point eat it, is it going to go to slaughter? That's the only way it makes sense to me. I mean, hello, I'm Southern.
You're like that little girl. I don't know if you guys have seen this viral video, but there's this little toddler. She's walking by, there's a cow, and she's like, burger. And the mom says, don't say that. It's not a burger. Cheese on mine. Die.
Exactly, little girl. Exactly. It's a burger. Although I don't think I would do really good with super fresh meat, because I did. Exactly, Raydella. What is a house cow? This lady has cows for pets in her house, little tiny Highland cows.
So a house cow is a cow that lives in your mansion, obviously, Raydella. You don't have a mansion with some cows that just wander? I don't either. I would never, because cows also have a funky smell. So like that's a whole thing. And like
they do.
I like, because I'm Canadian, you guys, so I grew up with all this stuff, and like cow dung is like rough. So like, where's that all going? Who's taking care of that?
I don't know. These are the same people who probably like kiss their dogs in the mouth, so they don't care.
Hey, Tanya. Tanya's like, no house cow, a pet cow that lives outside. Oh my God, the smell. Yeah, I mean, you guys, cows are still cows. Like I'm trying to say to you, like, you think you could be trendy and TikTok worthy, but they're still cows.
They're still cows. And unless maybe there's some purpose for it in LA that I don't know about. Like I know in Georgia, you can get a tax write-off by having goats in your backyard. But actually having goats in the backyard is really helpful because they eat like whatever. It's helpful in a way, right? And it's also a tax write-off. A house cow, I don't know. Maybe there's something about it that we don't know because I'm so poor that part of the tax code does not apply to me.
Yeah, it does apply to me, but that's not it. Like this woman has too much money. She's probably in Bel Air somewhere. Saw a TikTok video, said, yes, that's cute. I want to have that. And now she has 2 house cows. Anyway, Sarper says, anything is possible in America. And I laughed because, again, just as an immigrant, that's what you're taught. You're taught, America is the land of the free, the opportunities and all of that stuff. But real life is real life, and some of the stuff is not real life. One of the things that I thought was interesting is that they get to Shekinah's apartment, and she lives in North Hollywood. They call it NoHo. And she lives right across this dance studio. And I won't say, but I definitely Googled that, and I know exactly where she lives. It's an arts district, you guys. It's for creatives. If you're like a dancer, a singer, any type of artist, like the NoHo district is definitely where you want to be. But it's also people that are up and coming, right? So it makes sense that she's in that area. But the fact that I was able to pinpoint exactly where she lived, I was like, oh my God, am I a stalker?
You're not a stalker, but if that's how easy it is, then they need to be a little bit more, production should be more safe about where she is.
True and true. But, Sarper also has like his comedy workout in North Hollywood that anyone could go to. So
yeah, that's also true. Yeah.
So she explains to him, he sees her apartment. He's a little upset that she didn't explain to him her living situation, because her apartment is way smaller than what he's used to. Plus, he's finding out that she didn't tell him a lot. She can't cook there. He has to leave the house if she has clients, all the things. I'd be a little shaken as well. I remember, leaving the country, going to another country. That alone is scary. And now you're being told, like, go and entertain yourself because you can't be here. Oh, by the way, when you wake up and the comforts of the things that you're used to, cooking and all of this stuff, you can't do that here. You're going to have to go and figure it out for yourself. And that's going to be what, every single day? Till when? Abby, till when?
It doesn't make any sense. She didn't even give him a schedule where it was like, okay, all these days are the days that I take clients. So those are the times when you'll have to be out of the house. And I'm going to show you places where you can go and spend time. I'm going to show you how to use public transportation. It was nothing, which is like, you can't be here when I have clients. That's very overwhelming for me. That would be overwhelming for me.
Same. So that's them. We're going to move on to Stevie and Maddie. They're en route to meet her family, specifically her dad. They have 88 days to wed. She keeps asking him if he's nervous while she's driving there. And my note just says she's really set him up for failure because she didn't tell her dad anything about him. She already knows her dad is a racist and has preconceived notions about Iranians, Persians. And I just thought that was terrible, as well as I thought it was interesting that she had her GPS on to go to her dad's house. Like, I am not super great with directions, but I'll tell you this, I know how to get to any family member's house with my eyes closed.
That one's weird. I was like, is she just trying to do that for knowing the fastest way or knowing if there's like an accident on the road or something? Because that was weird. And
yeah, but Abby, shouldn't she know that? Shouldn't she know that as well? Like I said, with your family members, you should know all the routes to your family member's house, especially like your parent.
Yeah, but you know how sometimes if you're using Waze, it'll tell you like if there's an accident coming up or if you should. I was like, if that's what she's doing, then that makes sense because I will use that here in DC even if I know where I'm going because it'll tell me like, police on the left shoulder, stuff like that. But if it's just regular GPS that she was using, that was weird. And it doesn't look like he's set up in an Airbnb or something where it's like they're faking his house.
Yeah, let me know what you guys think. I just thought it was weird. It wasn't Waze for sure. It was like regular GPS, and you recognize that voice. And I was just like, that's really weird. Like, I thought it was weird. Anyways, she's nervous. He's nervous to meet the dad, and dad's like, good. He should be nervous. And I was like, oh, okay, so we're going to do this intimidation thing.
Right.
Mr. South, Mississippi. I have a lot of things I want to say about her dad, but I'm just going to try to be on my best behavior. So Perry.
Don't leave me out in the cold by being on your best behavior. Let's just go in on the dad.
All right. So Perry, the dad, I think he's stereotypical American from the South. Mississippi racist stereotype, not very educated. I personally don't even understand half the words that are coming out of his mouth. And I'm not the only one, because they have subtitles for when he speaks. And I think that it's ignorant of him. And I am assuming, and I'm going to assume all the way, because I know for a fact that less than it's 12 or 10% of American population has actually traveled outside of America, and even less have traveled outside of their immediate community. So that being said, I just find it interesting that he has all of these opinions about who Maddie is as a person, because he's watched his favorite news channel that speaks directly to him and his opinions and what he sees, and then regurgitates all the things that he hears without researching for himself. Especially if your daughter is going to marry an immigrant, maybe take a few moments and figure out and find out for yourself what that country is about, rather than spouting off all of these stereotypes that you've heard on your favorite news show. It makes you look ignorant. It makes American look ignorant. And the fact that you can't put a whole sentence together, and the fact that y'all know me, that we're looking at red cups and paper plates and plastic forks and a friggin' pit with do better and be better.
So that's my friend Noah in the comments. I was curious about Dad's reaction too. And this is what Dad's reaction was to me. Him and Maddie are, him and what he assumes Maddie is, not what Maddie really is, are the same. He assumes that Maddie is a person who wants to control women. Dad is a person who wants to control women. What they're arguing about, what Dad is arguing about right now, is not whether or not Maddie is going to be suppressive towards his daughter. He's arguing which one of them gets to be suppressive towards her, because he wants to control her as well. He's like, wait a minute. Are you going to come in here and try? Because think about this. They're sitting there having this conversation. She's there. And at no point is anyone asking her, what do you want? What do you think? How do you feel? At no point in any of these conversations that Dad has had with his daughter has he investigated, how did you meet? How did you? So to me, it's like Dad is trying to pretend like he's so concerned about his daughter's freedom. But in reality, he just wants to be the one who's in control of her, not a foreigner.
I agree with you 100%. And when Maddie walked up and said there are murder weapons all around him, it just like the movies, and the movies don't end well for people that look like me, I literally did the slow clap. I did the slow clap, you guys, because any single movie that the black person dies first. If you haven't seen Get Out, go ahead and watch it. All that was this in reverse. So we have Perry the dad, we have Anthony the brother, which King Bigger Red Williams made a hilarious comment about. That is hilarious. Hills have eyes. And Wendy the girlfriend, which I gotta tell you, y'all, Wendy rubbed me the wrong way just looking at her face. Just looking at her face, because you know what? You know that Perry's bad, but I'm gonna say it. Sometimes, y'all, the woman is way worse than the man. Way, way worse.
Yeah.
On top of it all, I think part of my other issue is, you guys know how I feel about cats. They have this black cat, and then we hear this whole thing about Maddie, and that's our black cat, and the saying that's behind that. And I laugh because I know you guys come for me, but at least I'm honest and open. I will never own a cat because I just don't know their purpose, and I think they're terrible. And I'm not the only person that thinks they're terrible. There's that.
Mm-hmm.
And so Maddie sits down on the blue little plastic chair around the fire pit, and he looks scared to death. I felt so bad for him, Abby, because you could see it, like his face had lost all of its color, and he didn't know what was going on. And if you think about it, the dad lives in the middle of nowhere. The daughter took GPS to the house, and then you're already in Mississippi, and then you're surrounded by white people, and you're the only other. and then there's axes and saws and fire, I'd be a little scared too.
Yeah, I would not be into that at all. I'd be like, take me away from here immediately. Tell your dad to come to us. This is not comfortable. I've been in uncomfortable situations with white folks. It is not. There's a store in North Georgia that still sells Confederate memorabilia. And when we went to our first debate competition up there, all the kids that already did debate before I joined the team, they were all so excited to stop at this store, but they didn't tell me what the store was. They're just like, oh my gosh, we're so excited. We're going to Rome. We get to stop at our favorite store, favorite store, favorite store. I walked inside. Get me the heck up out of here. What is this? And then I got into an argument with our, not director, but like our supervising teacher. Like, why would you even feel like this was an appropriate place to stop? I can't wait to get home and tell my parents, because we didn't have cell phones back then. Like, I cannot wait to get home and tell my parents that you thought on a school-related trip that it was okay to come to this store.
Wild. That's wild and scary. So they're sitting there. It's quiet. It's awkward. Dad then decides that he's going to mention the tensions between the U.S. and Iran. My note says it's hard to understand him. Like, I, as a Canadian that speaks fluent English, had a really hard time understanding Perry. His accent was super thick, and I always say that that's so ignorant. And it is, because you try to like understand people, and I try to pride myself in understanding people, especially like immigrants, and I don't have a hard time usually. But this was like, I don't know. It was like English, but not English.
It was difficult. I mean, like, I understood him because I've traveled all throughout South Georgia and parts of Alabama, but I know that it's difficult for other people. Like, I know that I was specifically sent to do depositions in South Georgia when I was still doing insurance work because a lot of people didn't understand South Georgians.
Yeah, I just open your mouth a little more. I don't know. That's ignorant of me, but whatever.
No,
the dad goes on to say that he is worried because the husband has to sign something. No, let me backtrack. Maddie explains that when a wife wants to travel in Iran, the husband has to sign something in order for her to leave the country, like she's property, and the dad is concerned because that's how Maddie was raised, so he thinks Maddie's going to be the same way and rule over Stevie, and Stevie's going to have to ask when she wants to leave for permission, all of that stuff. And it's everything that Abby said earlier. It's a battle between Perry and in his mind conceived battle with Maddie. Who's going to control Stevie? I control her right now, and like, you're coming in and you're trying to act like she's going to be your property, but really she's my property because she's my daughter. She's
right.
Just a woman, and so who are you to tell her what to do when I'm trying to tell her what to do?
Yeah.
8,000 pieces.
It's so interesting to me, this dynamic that happens with men and the way that they try to use concern over women's freedoms just to assert their control over us or to assert some authority over us. This is really interesting for me to watch, especially because it doesn't appear that Stevie even realizes what's going on, you know?
Or chooses not to realize.
Or maybe she doesn't even believe it. Maybe she doesn't believe as I do, you know? Like, I have a lot of clients right now from Afghanistan. And the interesting thing that happens with them is that they all fled the Taliban, that the Taliban controlled Afghanistan because they believe that women should be able to be free to wear whatever they want, blah, blah. But they're really disrespectful to me sometimes in a way that I know that they would not be disrespectful to a man, because sometimes I'll even say, let's just pretend that a man said this. How do you feel now? Right? And they're like, but no, like, let's be honest with each other about what's happening here. You're questioning my judgment. You're questioning my professional skill and my professional suggestions because I'm a woman. So even as much as you purport to want freedom for women, you still want to be able to exert some kind of control or doubt over women as well at the same time. So it's really interesting to watch this happen.
Agreed. So Marty is really concerned. He wants the dad to like him. He wants to explain to the dad that although he was raised in that environment, he does not see women as property. And then they kind of drop it there, which I thought was interesting because that was a whole conversation that needed to be explored and resolved, in my opinion. But instead, they decide that they're going to go in and have some dinner. They open the door. The cat, that black cat, jumps in. And I know that this is nothing, but you guys know how I feel about cats. So when Marty said, "Is the cat allowed inside?" I was like, "Is the cat allowed inside?" And normally it's not. Wendy's like, "I would prefer it not to." And in my mind, Linda was like, "I would prefer it not to either. Go yonder." That's what y'all say in the South, right? Go yonder. And that has nothing to do with anything. I just wanted to say it. That being said, listen, y'all, I love myself a good soul food. I love mac and cheese. Give me like a turkey leg any day. All the things. I love it. I love it. Yum, yum, yum. Cornbread. Haven't had it in a while because, I'm trying to be summer ready. But what I will say is they must have ordered this food in, and they must have not ordered from like a proper soul food place in Mississippi, because what I saw on my TV was nasty. Yeah. They had mac and cheese in, the tinfoil container. Mac and cheese, I only saw it from afar, so it could have been okay.
No, it looks soupy.
The turkey looked dry. And then they had this pork thing that all my note says was yuck. The paper plates bothered me. The red cups bothered me. All fried food, all grease, all plastic, no vegetables, no salad, no nothing. Soda, pop. What else do you guys call it? Anyways, the Coke, Pepsi. You guys, what? That was dinner? That was the first dinner to impress the foreigner? I'm sorry, but this was who chose this?
That was really awful. And how would they not realize they shouldn't get pork?
Right. So you know all the things about Iran, but you don't know about that they don't eat pork?
Yeah, that's like one of the simplest, easiest things to not mistake. Honestly, I felt like he was taking a chance to eat any of the food, because at the point that they didn't remember not to get pork, you can't be sure if the other food wasn't seasoned with pork.
And he didn't ask. He didn't ask.
Yeah, exactly. They have amazing soul food all throughout different parts of the South. They had a chance to get something really, really good. Looking at this made me crave something I haven't had in a long time. Linda, have you ever heard of redneck lasagna?
Redneck lasagna?
Mm-hmm.
I have not. Tell me about it. First, let me just say, sad, because I'm sure they have some amazing soul food joints in Mississippi. Tanya, they absolutely do. They absolutely do. This wasn't that. This was
it was terrible. It looked terrible. So Brunswick stew is like a stew that has like a tender meat, a meat that's been seasoned and cooked for like 24 hours, like a nice soft piece of beef, and that like a lot of vegetables and stuff in it. So you take that Brunswick stew and you mix it with macaroni cheese. And that is redneck lasagna.
Where am I getting that? Because that sounds delicious.
It's fantastic. My favorite place used to be not that far away from where I worked when I lived in Marietta, Georgia. And it was a easy like lunchtime to go to.
Tanya, I want to come to North Carolina. I'll say this. The company that I work for, we represent an artist that is based in North Carolina, and he's like my favorite person ever. I need to come to North Carolina and figure it out. One of my coworkers from North Carolina, and he's just fire. Brandon, shout out. Holla. And I learned so much about an ex-coworker, Corey. Happy belated birthday. But they all come from North Carolina. So not only do you guys have great food, you have great people. So Tanya, I'm sure you're amazing as well. And I'm trying to come to North Carolina. Just to check it out. Because I have
Tanya, Ray Della, everybody else in the chat. I want me and Linda to take a trip to New Orleans and just like eat all through the French Quarter. Don't you guys want to see a special episode of Abby and Linda in NOLA? Don't you? Can't you just imagine it in big bright lights right now?
I would do well. I think my husband might also be in New Orleans. Vignettes, music,
We can do a
groupies.
riverboat cruise. We can go to the casino. We can eat all the oysters, eat some crawfish, eat some po' boys.
I love Nola. Raydella said, 1,000 Pieces says, yes, of course I do. We should make that happen for the summertime. Sunset summertime.
Yeah, I'm putting it on my list right now.
Let's do it.
NOLA.
Y'all, it's as you probably don't know because I'm so private, but I'm gonna be in Phoenix next week, and so that may affect our schedule. It may not, I don't know yet. But kicking off the American Memorial Day weekend, my birthday is following few days. So travel is on the agenda this year. I'm down for a food tour. Yes, Tanya, yes. Yes, let's do all the foods. Back to 90 days because we do get sidetracked sometimes. The food. That's what I was stuck on, the food. Perry says that, he didn't know about Maddie until a few days ago, and he can't understand why they're rushing and it's 90 days. Why can't they wait longer? And then I'm going to give it to you, Abby, to explain again for people like Perry who do not really understand the K-1 visa process. If you can please explain it.
Right. So the purpose of coming in on a K-1 visa as opposed to coming in on a regular kind of visa is that you get the benefit of being able to apply directly for residency if you get married in the 90 days. So if I wanted to marry someone who is an immigrant who came to the United States on a visa, I can't apply directly for residency for them. We first have to submit an application for our marriage to be considered a bona fide marriage, which can take a year, So if you come in on a K visa, they give you an advantage, they give you a benefit. But in order to use that benefit, you have to get married within the 90 days. If you don't do that, you lose that benefit. Now, you don't have to leave the United States if you get married on the 91st day or the 100th day or the 180th day, but you lose that benefit of being able to apply directly for residency. At that point, you would have to go backwards and apply for the I-130, which is verification of a bona fide marriage. So if you want the benefit that you paid for when you come in on a K visa, you must get married within the 90 days. Her father is not aware of this because she just told him the other day that she even petitioned for Maddie. So instead of him asking, can you explain to me the K visa process? He's just like, I don't understand why you guys can't wait. I wish people would just ask questions more. Just ask more questions instead of saying, why can't people just come the right way? Why don't you just ask? What is there available for immigrants to obtain residency? What are the barriers to people obtaining residency? Just ask more questions. Okay, I'm done.
Well, I'm not. How much does a K-1 visa cost?
You know what? Let me check the filing fee right now because it just changed.
And while you're checking that, the other thing that I had a question about is that you said, so if I had my fiance come over and we missed the 90-day deadline, he could still stay, but we can't take advantage of the K-1 visa process, even if it was the 91st day.
Correct. So that person would then be out of proper status, and they would have to apply for the I-130, which is a petition for alien relative, instead of being able to directly apply for residency.
And how much time does that add to the whole process?
It is going to add about 1.5 years to the entire process.
Oof.
Yeah. Okay. So the filing fee for the fiance visa is $675 US dollars. So that's the price that you pay when you submit the application. And then before you go to the interview in your home country, you have to pay separate filing fees There are two separate ones. One is $180. One is $120. So those are the current fees to do the fiance visa if you're doing it on your own. If
you're looking at like $1,000 if you're doing it on your own.
Right. If you're hiring an attorney, the attorney might charge anywhere from $2,500 to, let's say, $7,000. Anything over $7,000, I think you're getting into ridiculous.
And do you have to go through like biometrics and all of that?
Yes, you have to get a medical report done. You have to get clearances from your police department that you don't have any criminal records. You have to attend the interview, be able to answer questions regarding the relationship, show evidence that that person has visited you, that you've met in person, and that it's not for the purpose of immigration, that it's for the purpose of quote unquote love, that you are seeking this visa.
Hey, Ambry. Hey, girl. Hey. So piggybacking off of what Abby's saying, Perry says the same thing to Madi. How do we know you just didn't want to come to America? Do you love each other? Anthony, the brother, asks. And Madi says, yes, I love her forever. I haven't loved anyone as much as her. And then after that disgusting meal they had, they decide that they're going to go back outside and do s'mores with the dad and the girlfriend. And s'mores are delicious, you guys. But like, I don't know. I wouldn't want my immigrant spouse to have that as their first experience. That's just me.
Yeah, s'mores is not the best dessert we have to offer, but look, they showed us with the food that they don't really have the best taste. So
is that the excuse behind it, Abby?
I'm not offering an excuse. I'm just saying these people just don't have good taste in food.
Facts. I mean, those are facts. And I feel bad for Madi because this is his first experience, and I just don't think they're giving him the best first experience.
I don't think so. Imagine the food that he's coming from. You've had Iranian food.
Yum.
It's delicious.
Yum.
So he's coming from a place. Hey, Busola. He's coming from a place that has amazing fresh food and lots of vegetables to this.
Yeah, I just, Tanya, you and I are on the same page. Like, I just don't know what that smorgasbord, hodgepodge nonsense of let's just throw all this stuff together and call it a meal was. Like, they don't know any better. Facts, King, facts. Moving on to Mark and Mina, who have quickly become my favorite so far of the season. Mark, Mina, and Maria, because it's all so outrageous. And Jordan is Jordaning the most. Jordan is Jordaning the most. Jordan is, in my personal opinion, she's a mean girl. I was going to say something totally different, but I caught myself. She's a mean girl. And I will say this, she is the reason why America is in the position that it's in right now, period. Full stop.
So that Jordan caught me off guard when we realized that she had a black husband.
Oh, we're going to talk about Gabe shortly.
I tried to see things from Jordan's point of view. I said, listen to what she's saying and what her concerns are, and just really try to understand that she's a daughter concerned about her dad. And then I was doing it. I was doing really well. And then she completely lost me with, what if I want to have kids in the next year or two?
There's more to that than that. So I'm glad that you're trying to take her point of view, but I will say this. Jordan is the daughter, and I think that she's forgotten her place in this whole situation. Mark is her father, not her bestie. Mark is her father, who is older and her senior. She has no business to be in his relationship. Now, can she have concerns and cares and look out for her father? Yes. But should her opinion matter to Mina? Absolutely not. And for all y'all who are on like Reddits and all over the internet talking trash about Mina, Mark is a full-grown man. He clearly has a preference on who he likes to date now that his kids are grown and he's trying to be his best self. So that has nothing to do with Mina. Mina made an adult decision that this is the exact type of relationship that she wants to be in, and that's okay for her to be in that type of relationship because Mark made his decision. He knew what he was bringing to the table, and he knew what she was bringing to the table. Now, if we're going to talk about Jordan with her black boyfriend on the show, but now husband, who is talking shit about Mina, the black woman, who should not have a kid, didn't want this for her dad, thinks that there should be no other siblings. That's not about anything but, hey, this is my money. I'm not sharing with these black children and the black wife, because if you don't think that that's what it's about, Abby, then all of y'all are completely confused. Because had she still been with the mom, her white mom, these would not have been concerns. And they're not concerns, even though the mom is divorced from Mark. So let's not be stupid. Let's not be simpletons right now. I know she is telling all of us, the whole world, exactly who she is. She doesn't care that her husband's black because, he's light-skinned black. He's probably like half black, half white. So
he's one of the good ones.
So it doesn't matter. Mina's a full black woman. Even though the daughter, Maria, looks like her husband, she's only concerned about Mina being a gold digger. Don't get me started because I haven't even gone through this. And I think that Jordan is toxic. I think Jordan has a big mouth. And I understand the concerns that Mina has, because if I was in a relationship with a man who had children, my issues with my relationship, and this doesn't only pertain to children, you guys. It pertains to your friends. It pertains to your mama, your daddy, all the things. If you're having issues in your relationship, if you don't want those issues to escalate, or if they're not like, like DV or like really important things, don't bring your family into bullshit. Because what's going to happen is you tell your mama, Tony was late for dinner again today. Tony was late last week as well. So your mom thinks that you think that that's very important. So the next week when Tony's late for dinner, when it's family dinner, your mom's looking at Tony's side eye, but you've totally forgotten that you've said 3 or 4 times. Guess what? Mom hasn't forgotten. So now Tony's the bad person. And then when you have another fight and then your mom talks crazy about Tony and then you get in a fight with your mom you're talking crazy about Tony and you're wondering why everyone has strife, it's because your business at the house should be your business at the house. Unless you guys, it's a real situation. Like I said, it's DV or like any type of abuse, any type of anything like that, then obviously tell a friend, tell someone, and get yourself out of that situation. But if Tony left the toilet up one too many times and you're pissed off about that, maybe keep it to yourself.
Right. So I agree with you. If anybody does not agree with Linda and you need further proof that Jordan simply does not want this black woman in her life, consider this. She, on the one hand, is saying, I'm afraid you're just here for a green card. And when she's shown something different, which is, I want a family with your father, I want to have another child with him, she also doesn't want that. So she doesn't want him to be in a fake relationship, and she doesn't want him to be in a real relationship. She doesn't want either one of those. Why wouldn't she want her father to have either one of those things with Mina? There's not that many answers.
I mean, y'all made me go off, so I'm just not going to even say anything. Hey, Stevie. Why does Jordan feel so empowered in this relationship? Facts. She sees her shares dwindling to 10%. Facts. So money.
And her dad has an opportunity to just go ahead and shut this down, and he's not taking that opportunity, and that is going to be his fault as well, because he could have, from the very beginning, done a lot of things to shut this down. He could have just said, you're simply not going to be having any conversation with me that disparages my wife. He could have said that. Or he could have said, hey, listen, this is what I'm setting aside for you. This is what you're going to get. when I pass away. This is what I'm willing to you. And that's it. Like, go ahead and have that conversation, have it out in front so she's not thinking or wondering or left in the dark about it. There are a lot of different ways that he could have handled this besides just gossiping, because that's basically what he did.
Facts. So we've said so much, so I'm just going to run down some of the recap for those of you who haven't seen it. Mark and Mina and Maria go to North Carolina to spend time with the family. What I love about this whole situation, that I will say that I had a little like, oh, that's a great lifestyle when your husband's a pilot and has a plane and just be like, hey, we're going to walk from our house to the runway and just fly to where we want to go. So he flies them to North Carolina. My note says must be nice. They're meeting up with his brother and his parents. And then, of course, Jordan and Gabe are flying in from Florida to meet them. They fly to North Carolina. They land on the Strip, and they go into like a F-150, it looked like to me. And they left Maria in the plane, both of them, Mark and Mina, which I laugh because they're both like, ooh, we're great parents. Mina is still mad at the whole Jordan situation, doesn't want to see Jordan, doesn't like Jordan's behavior. I wouldn't either. And then we find out that Mark told Jordan to what? Like, what was his purpose, you guys? Because he already knows the situation's bad. You're spending sexy time with your fiance in the hot tub and then, or jacuzzi, and then you're going to go and tell your daughter the conversation that you and your fiance had in the jacuzzi. Like, already, if you play it back, it sounds crazy to me. It's not, I as a daughter don't want to know that my mom and her boyfriend are in the jacuzzi talking about anything. Like, that just sounds stupid to me.
Yeah.
That's what Mark does, but he feels bad because he feels like he shouldn't have told Jordan about the jacuzzi conversation. He regrets it, but you only regret it because now you've caused even more strife in your family. He should have stayed out of it, and I 100% agree. Abby, he should have just kept his mouth closed. Your friend King is really funny. Mina's not comfortable now, which, of course, she's mad at Mark because he's sharing private conversations outside of the relationship. I 100% agree with that. They arrive at the hotel. And here's what the other thing that I didn't like. And I could be taking it extra, but I don't think I am. Lately, I've noticed a recent uptake in hate against Black women from all across the board. All across the board, from emboldened racists to Black men who specifically do not date Black women for saying there's this, there's that, there's this. So when Mark said Amina can be fiery, I am hoping that he didn't mean anything by it, but given the uptake of recent stereotypes, I was a little concerned about that, because fiery in any other race can be like, oh, she's the lady that defecated on someone else's car in road rage. Oh, no one's saying that she's fiery. No one's saying that she's problematic. Or the woman that takes offense to the baby singing in the restaurant, she doesn't like the song. Or the man that shot the 3 teenagers who had their rap music up too loud at the gas station, so he killed them. Like, I could go on. No one's saying those people are fiery.
And we haven't seen Mina be fiery. I don't recall seeing any episodes from her. She has reacted appropriately in every situation, in my opinion.
That's it. So you guys just be careful about the stereotypes, because we don't appreciate it. That being said, the other thing that I think is interesting and very American is, if you have not traveled, and specifically I'm speaking of Parisians, because as a Canadian, je parle français, right? But if you think that I speak French, Parisians don't think I speak French. They think my French is ghetto. They're just hoity-toity. And that's something that I love about them, because you know what? Paris is like wild. That being said, this whole thing that Mina was 3 hours late to the baptism, and that's her big thing. That is the way. If you are
That did not surprise me at all.
If you are not having croissant and chocolate and coffee, what are you doing? You are not the first person to show up at your event. I promise you that. I promise you that. That is not the Parisian way.
It's
Okay?
not. It's not, but that's just not just Parisians. That's a lot of foreign countries, period. I think America is the only country that gets so uptight about time.
But I want to say this in Parisian French culture specifically because there's no concept of time. I could be 2 days late because I was sitting on the patio having the best smoking coffee of my life. Do you understand? They would rather like make love and drink champagne than be on time for anything. She had no ill will towards that. That's just the mentality. And if you traveled, you would know that. Anyways, they meet up with Jordan and Gabe, and it's awkward. Jordan talks about how she was not expecting to have another sibling. It's making the dynamics of the family different. And
you notice how she doesn't really engage with Maria?
At all. Maria had that cute little, what's it called? Beach ball. And she was giving it to her and they just totally ignored her. It was very Jordan says, I feel like this is your new family and the dynamics are different now and we're not a part of it. Jordan thinks it's Mina's fault. And I don't want to have to go to, Sex 101, but it takes 2 to make a baby. 2 things at least, at the very least. And then Mark's like, I don't have to ask permission to have another child. I thought that was the strongest thing that Mark has said thus far. And then Jordan said, well, I didn't want this for our family. I didn't want this. And truth is, you and I, Jordan says, meaning her and Mina, are not friends. And she's still mad about Paris. And she expected, and here it is. Here was the statement that was just so familiar to me. And I'll be on my best behavior. But she said she expected to feel loved and wanted and included. And I guess I'll just say, what have you done thus far to make Mina and Maria, your sister, feel loved, wanted, and included? Because from what I've seen so far, you've not interacted with Maria at all. And all the things that you're saying about Mina have not been great. So you're saying you want these things, but are you giving those things?
You're not. Imagine your parent being separated from their child in a long distance relationship, and then they finally are able to live with that child. And when you see them all together for the first time, you're not so excited for your parent. Like, I was like, how is she not like, isn't this so cool that you guys are finally together? Are you having the time of your life, that you have your daughter with you? I know everybody's not really into kids, but if I had a little sibling, I would be all into, I want you to know me, play with me. I want you to think of me as your friend too.
But even if you're not into kids, who doesn't like an adorable kid?
Who doesn't take a ball or a telephone when a baby is handing it to you?
I'm just saying, like, you got to be cold and made of stone to not be like, oh, hey, cutie, even if it's for 30 seconds and you're pretending. It's wild to me. Anyways.
Also, just like side note, if you're really worried about your inheritance, being nice to your new siblings is going to get you a whole lot further than trying to ostracize or be mean to them, because
Jordan and Mina go off to have a tete-a-tete. And Jordan asks Mina, do you want more kids? And Mina's like, yeah. Jordan thinks it's weird because what if she wants to have kids? Again, it's about her and how she feels. And so that's making her feel uncomfortable. And I was like, see, this is why you're kind of terrible, Jordan. You're kind of terrible because, narcissists always make it about themselves. And this is not about you. And so what if you want to have kids? There are tons of family dynamics where the cousin and the sister are all the same age. Who cares? If you guys love on each other and, quote, make each other feel loved, make each other feel wanted and included, none of that shit is going to matter.
Right.
But it only matters if you actually really don't want this person to be part of your family and you don't want them to have more kids because you're worried about your money, and you're also worried about your bloodline.
Right.
So what else could it be?
And this is not an edit. This is like who Jordan is, because this episode came out and she made a TikTok laughing and saying, oh, whatever, people are mad at me because I'm just trying to protect my dad, as opposed to her making a TikTok saying, oh, they didn't show where I actually did interact with Maria, or, they didn't fully explain what I was upset about. Here's what I was trying to get across. This is just who she is. She does not appear to be a very nice person.
Yeah, my note says, and I will paraphrase, but Jordan is, quote, a B, and she's trying to control her dad's life. And the fact that she doesn't want her dad to have more babies, and she's accusing Mina of wanting a green card and the house and all of that stuff, I'm shaking my damn head, because all of the things that you're accusing Mina of are all the things that you're trying to protect for your damn self. Selfish. Period.
Right. Also, there's this weird thing completely apart from Mina and Mark. But, okay, if someone comes to the United States as an immigrant, they're being sponsored by their spouse who is wealthy, people automatically be like, you're a gold digger. But if you come to the U.S. with a sponsor or with a spouse who doesn't have any money, then you're an idiot. So, what do you really want women to do? It's kind of like the same way I feel about people who complain about people who are on food stamps, who receive food assistance. You complain if they buy a bunch of organic food, like, well, you're buying organic food and I can't afford organic food. But you also complain if they buy junk food. You just got to admit, you just don't like people.
That part. Mina calls Jordan a snake and disinvites her to her wedding, and they leave it at that. I disagree. So Francis says, sorry, but I disagree. Mark requires a prenup. Actually, any that has assets before marrying someone else, even common law, requires a prenup. Mina is bringing no assets into the marriage but liabilities. And Francis,
did you say something about a prenup that
I'll go. Okay, you go first.
Oh, no. Did you say something about a prenup that I completely missed?
Francesca says, sorry, but I disagree. Mark requires a prenup. Actually, and I'm thinking she says any person that has assets before marrying someone else, even common law requires a prenup. Mina is bringing no assets into the marriage, but liabilities. And then Francesca, I will say this. How do you know that Mina has no assets? You're assuming she has no assets because she's marrying into someone who's clearly displaying their assets. But the fact that you are assuming she doesn't have assets because she has not displayed them tells me a lot. The second thing, as far as common law, and Abby, you're the attorney, but common law relationships do not require prenups unless you decide that you want to enter into a prenuptial agreement, because common law relationships don't necessarily have paperwork that follows it, because you're just assuming after a certain amount of time living together and sharing assets that you are common law. Am I wrong, Abby?
There's no situation that requires a prenup. If you're saying like somebody is legally required to obtain a prenup, that is incorrect. A prenup is always voluntary. It must be voluntary on both parts. If there's any coercion on either part, then the contract can be voided in the future. So no, there's no situation, marriage, legal marriage, common law marriage, there's no situation that requires a prenuptial agreement. If you're saying that he should get a prenup, then yeah, you can have your opinion about whether he should get a prenup or not.
That's it. So, Francesca, we're going to agree to disagree. We're also going to move on to Matt, Amani, and Annie. Abby, your thoughts?
This is a mess. I thought that we were going to be able to see like an interesting polyamorous couple that brings a third into the relationship and explore all those dynamics. But they haven't. Amini and her husband, whose name I just blank on, Matt, they haven't really fleshed out what they want their relationship to be to Annie. Because there shouldn't be at this point conversations about what the rules and the do's and don'ts are. That should already have been established.
I agree with you 100%. I'm confused by this, y'all. I'm confused by this because we are on the same TLC network with Seeking Sister Wives and Sister Wives. So we, as a community, a TLC community, have learned, and I'll speak for myself specifically, more than enough about polyamorous, polyamory, threesomes, thruples. There's a bunch of stuff. I used to host a show, and one of those cast members was my co-host on the show, and he taught me stuff. Obviously, I forgot a lot of it, but I could go back and say that the people that are actually really in these polyamorous relationships have taken the time to not only explore what that means to each other and to make sure that both of them are comfortable in the lifestyle before they bring in a third person. And the biggest obstacle I've seen since being introduced to them from the shows and from hosting a show with one of them and interviewing all of them is that the hardest part is finding someone that's a perfect fit for your situation, for your coupledom. And that's the hardest part. What I find interesting about Matt and Amani, it's like, do they even know what polyamorous means and what it means for them specifically? Because it sounds to me like, here's what it's looking like to me. It's looking like, hey, we're two hot people. We want to be on a TV show. What's going to make us stand out? Let's say we're the first throuple on 90 Day Fiance and call it a day. But you have no parameters. You don't even know what you're looking for. And now you're on 90 days, meaning you have 90 days to get married. But you all should be on before the 90 days because you haven't figured shit out yet.
Right. They want a weird polyamory that I'm not, that I haven't been exposed to, because my understanding is each couple is distinct. So Amini can have her own relationship with Annie. Annie can have her own relationship with Mark, and Mark has his own relationship with Amini, right? But it seems like what Amini wants is for them all three to do things together all the time, as opposed to each person being able to have their discrete relationships with the other people.
Tanya says Amani is the third wheel and she's already jealous. I agree with that. And I agree with what you said, Abby. I've never seen the dynamic where all three of you guys are in a relationship together. It's the man or the woman who's in a relationship with each individual person. And then the sister wives or the brother husbands have a relationship as in like friendship. Mm-hmm. This is where it's like all three of us are going to be all together all the time. And as Tanya so clearly pointed out, we're already seeing jealousy pop out and it's not looking good. So they opened the segment with this chocolate crepe thing in Mexico. Did you remember that, Abby? Mm-hmm. What is that?
I don't remember what they called it.
They didn't call it anything. That's why I took a note. If y'all know what I'm talking about and you know what it's called, please let me know, because it was like the crepe and they put some stuff in and they rolled it and they chocolate sauce. Oh my God, it looked delicious. Not that I'm trying to have that right now because I'm trying to be summer ready. Tanya has a question for you, Abby. Doesn't a divorce take longer than 90 days?
Yeah, that's why they're in Mexico. Everyone else that we're following right now is coming in the U.S. or coming to the U.S. Aaliyah's on the way. But they are in Mexico because they haven't started the process and they haven't decided, I don't think, that they've let us know yet who exactly is going to be the one to petition for Annie. So they'll have to get divorced and then one of them will have to file a petition for her. And I have doubts about whether or not that will get approved, but that's another conversation for a different day.
So my note says Matt is living his best life, and it's for all the reasons that April said, because normally in polyamorous relationships, it is the guy, one here, one there, but he's in a situation where he's got both of them. It's every, teenage boy's wet dream, which I just think is hilarious. And then, Annie's feeling a little bit out of sorts because Annie and Matt were intimate without Amani because Amani wasn't feeling well. And again, they didn't discuss the dynamics, so they went ahead and went for it. And Amani is now having a hissy fit because she feels like, A, Matt didn't tell her. B, like, why would they be together without her being there? And again, goes to what Abby was saying. You clearly didn't discuss what you guys are trying to get married, but you don't know what the dynamics of your relationship look like.
Yeah, hissy fit is such a good word to describe what she's doing right now.
Yeah. And then Annie goes on to talk about her family. Her brother thinks that Amani is just her friend and Matt is her boyfriend. And that set Amani off for the second or third or fourth time. I can't keep track. Doesn't know that there were threesome because he doesn't understand it. And that made sense. She was being very honest and open and completely transparent. And if you guys know anything about Mexico, very Catholic, very religious.
I have a question about that, though.
Go ahead.
Two questions, really. The first question being, we know that her family didn't support her when she got pregnant when she was younger, and that's what led to her moving away and starting to work as a stripper, right? Mm-hmm. So first question is, how important is the family who didn't support you?
I think that family is really, whether they supported you or not, I think that family in Hispanic community is very, very important, whether they supported you or not. We saw that with Kenny and Armando and him just loving his family so much, even though they didn't support him in his journey and him coming out, any of those things, he still had them first and foremost. I know a lot of specifically Mexican people in California, and it's the same thing. Family is family is family is family. And I think that that's the thing with Annie and her family as well, even though her brother doesn't fully understand her. And that's why she's not being completely open and honest with what she's doing in this relationship. I do also think that she doesn't even know really what she's doing. And that's why she doesn't want to introduce any strife into her family. So,
yeah. And question two, is she also telling us that they don't know she's a stripper?
Oh, they definitely don't know she's a stripper. She's been stripping for 10 plus years? They definitely don't know that.
I'm surprised she could keep that a secret for so long. Yeah, Francesca has been going on and on about the prenup for a while. I don't know if you want to address any of that.
No, I'm done. I said what I had to say. We can agree to disagree. A prenup, honestly, Francesca, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I will tell you this from experience and people that I know. A prenup is not the end all and be all, and there are ways around a prenup. And so you can say, hey, I gotta have this prenup and it said this and this and this, but you get a high, powerful, amazing, great attorney and that prenup means nothing. So at the end of the day, you would hope that people marry for the right reasons, and specifically when it comes to like sickness and health issues and all of that stuff, that they'll be there for their partner. But money or no money, there are a ton of people, poor people who are not there for people that they find out are sick. So that has nothing to do with the money, and it has nothing to do with Mina specifically. And I would encourage you as well to be talking about prenups just as hard for the other couples in this situation, not just Mark and Mina, because Mark has money and is older. Again, you're assuming that Mina doesn't have her own money. I don't know if you've traveled to Paris before, but Paris is very expensive.
It's very expensive. Cool city, though.
Back to Matt and Amani. You guys,
Hey, Joslo.
I try not to go off, but sometimes you guys just make me. So Amani is still mad, and she's like, you haven't told your family that we're a throuple, and we're already considering like divorcing and having this wedding, and you're still hiding me. And Annie's like, well, really, it's not that serious. I just haven't explained it. And then this is where you see that this is more about, I heard this term before, and I'm trying to remember what it was. Toxic, I don't know, it's like your toxic history when you have like something toxic in growing up, and then you bring it into your adulthood.
Okay.
That's what I think Amani's dealing with, because she doesn't want to be hidden anymore. She said she's done that her whole life. And she doesn't want to be in that situation anymore. And that's why she's having issues. And this is why I encourage you guys to seek real therapy. Figure out what it is that you're dealing with, that you're not bringing that emotional baggage into your relationships. And, you know, no one's perfect. We all have our things. But if you can recognize that that's what that is, instead of projecting it on someone else. So, for example, I think that Amani's projecting this being hidden on Annie, even if Annie that's not what she's really trying to do. But because you have that trauma that's sitting in you, that is how you're seeing it. That's how you're viewing it. And so it's always important to just like pay attention to those things. The other thing that Abby that I want to talk about is that, you know, they're all outside. They're about to get into the jacuzzi hot tub themselves. Did you know those? Do you notice those stickers on Annie's stomach?
No, I didn't.
Oh, anyone? You guys? Hey, Jocelyn. Hey, go. Hey. If anyone noticed those little circular stickers on Annie's stomach, I was curious to know what those were. If anyone knows, let me know in the live chat or the replay. Again, Amani's still mad. And says, you know, as long as her and Matt are okay, then she's okay. And that was really telling to me because, again, you're about to get a whole divorce and let your husband marry someone else. You're already feeling like the third wheel. So what are you going to feel like after you get divorced?
Exactly. So I think that my advice to Amani would be that you need to date within your queer closet range, like in the range of people from being completely in the closet to being completely open, like in that whatever range. She needs to date someone who is in the same place where she is on that range. Because I don't think it's right to date somebody who is more closeted and then get mad at them because they're closeted.
Right.
And that's kind of what is happening with Ani. She's not out to her family yet. So she's going to have to come out to her family as bisexual and or lesbian because of this relationship.
Right.
And that's a lot to ask from somebody who hasn't done that yet. We saw this, remember, with Carlos, the Colombian guy, and that relationship where one person has been open their entire lives and out, and the other person is newly on that journey. It just doesn't work.
Agreed. We're going to move on because we got two more couples to get through. Aaliyah and Sean. Aaliyah got approved to go to the U.S. And one of the things that I thought was great is that she said that she had an amazing experience with her immigration out there. And they asked her specifically, you know, what would you like to be called? Because as you know, when she met Sean, she was Douglas and she started to transition to Aaliyah. And I just thought that was amazing. I
wasn't concerned about that. I know that she was concerned about it going into the interview. I was like, I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
But I did, and I'll tell you why. So I had to renew my license, and without getting into my personal stuff, but I have a super long last name, and one of my documents says one thing, and another one says another thing, another says another thing. I always have to bring all my documents when I'm traveling. And then I went to get my license renewed, and this once, because it only takes one. So the one specific person was like, oh, I'm going to have to make this document look like this document. It's not going to look like this document, but because these two documents are American documents, these two documents have to be the same. And so knowing that, I just thought it would be a valid concern, Abby, that she was worried that her paperwork says Douglas, but she goes by Aaliyah. Can you talk a little bit about the legalities behind that and what travel and such is going to look like for her if her paperwork still has her old name and her new paperwork has her new name?
So most likely the visa was issued in the name Douglas, because unless there are some legal documents that have the name change on it, they're not going to just do a name change for you. So if
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So when she said that they asked her what she'd like to be called, that was just like
that was just for purposes of the interview.
Gotcha.
Right. That was just for purposes of the interview. What would you like to be called? But they cannot unilaterally issue you a travel document that has a name on it that doesn't match the name of the documents that you turned in at the time that you filed the application. But they can call you something different. So for the purpose of travel, Aaliyah is going to be showing documents that say the name Douglas and arriving into the United States as Douglas, unless a name change happens in Brazil, which at this point wouldn't be smart to do, because then you can't travel on the documents that have already been issued to you.
That's right. Okay,
So
that makes more sense to me.
Once Aaliyah arrives here, the choice will be that you could do a name change through the marriage process. If you do a name change through marriage, you don't have to do anything extra. You're allowed to change your name when you get married. But if she wants to do a name change otherwise outside of the marriage, then that could be done in the courts, but not in certain states right now. Certain states have frozen name change and gender marker changes, but some states will still allow it. But as far as like, if you live in a family where you get called a name and you have a name on your documents that isn't your actual birth name, which does happen in a lot of countries and cultures, the immigration office just asks you to list all of the aliases that you've ever used. So they'll put your legal name down on your documents, understanding you've never been called this name in your life. And then you just have to write down all of your aliases. This is really common with my clients from Nigeria, really common with my clients from Jamaica. They have what they call a home name that usually has nothing to do with their legal name at all whatsoever. So I don't know if you're in the chat, if you've never encountered this, it's a really interesting phenomenon. And literally the moms will say something like, yeah, I named him Ernest when he was born, but then when he was 3, he started looking like Toussaint. So we started calling him Toussaint. And that's all she wrote.
But
and
yeah, I get it.
Little bit of it carries over into African American families now, because I have some aunts who we call a certain name. And I asked my nieces and nephews not that long ago, maybe like a year or so ago, I asked them, like, do you even know what like Aunt Lulai's government name is? And they had no idea. It was actually really funny because one of my nieces, I have an aunt who's Aunt Lulai, we call her Aunt Lulai. And one of my nieces was like, Louise? Her name is Cynthia.
I mean, I get it. I am African, so I definitely get it. I have a born name, I have a Canadian name, I have like 1,000 last names, I have the day I was born name. I have a lot of names. I have nicknames. It is what it is. Africans will look at you and call you whatever, and you better respond. That's all.
Right. Just you're Pearl now, okay? Yeah, so it will be no different than that. You'll just list all of your aliases down. And if you are an immigrant coming into the United States, please, 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 please be consistent from the time that you file that first application. Be consistent about how you want to spell your name. If you are coming from a culture where you don't use phonetic, like alphanumeric characters to write your name, and so you have to translate your name into alphanumeric characters. If you want to use E, use an E. If you want to use an A, use an A. You've got to choose which one and be consistent about it in all of your paperwork.
That is very good, very wise advice. Very wise, very, very wise advice, you guys. Very wise. Okay, so Aaliyah got approved to go to the US. She thought she was treated well. One of the things that she talks about is that they've been waiting so long to be together, so finally going to be together. Sean, we know, has 3 kids. They don't know anything about Aaliyah. They actually don't know anything about their father, to be honest, because like this whole, they didn't even know about Douglas, and now they're going to have to know about Aaliyah. I mean, that has nothing to do with Aaliyah. It has everything to do with Sean. But the fact that he, in my opinion, felt the need to not tell them anything and now is going to spring everything on them is not fair to Aaliyah, because their confusion, if they feel animosity or threatened or any of the questions they have, they're gonna project that onto Aaliyah, and really it has nothing to do with Aaliyah. It has everything to do with your dad, Sean. Sean should have said who he is and what he's about before he brings in another person into the situation, as far as I'm concerned. Because it's a lot for children to absorb.
I agree.
So Jeannie, is it Jean or Jeannie?
Jeannie, I thought.
Okay, so that's Sean's mom. They're in the heart of West Hollywood. If you know, you know. Jeannie's the only one that has met Douglas as well as Aaliyah. They get along fantastically. Sean and his mom are out for drinks, and he says that his mom is his closest confidant. So only the mom knows about Aaliyah, and Aaliyah being transgender as well as being his fiance. And again, one of the things that is consistent, in my opinion, in this season are these people setting up their significant others for failure.
Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about? Your mom's so no friends, your children, your ex-wife, all these people who you interact with daily on a regular basis, you're just going to throw Aaliyah into the fire. And not only is it going to be difficult because you were in a heterosexual relationship for X amount of years, you have 3 children, and then you're saying that you're gay, and then now you're in a transgender relationship. That's a lot to absorb, whether someone is open and willing and loving, or if they're biased and full of hate.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot for someone. Even me and Abby had to teach me a lot of stuff because I was not exposed to it. So I had questions, and thank God she was generous and open enough to explain some things to me. But can you imagine, there's a lot of people that don't know because you're not subjected to it every single day. No, let alone it coming into your family. How are you setting up Aaliyah for success? Abby, how? What are your thoughts?
He's not. And I wonder if his children care about him. Like, what kind of parent was he that his children are asking, why are you constantly in Brazil? Like, what's going on down there? It makes me wonder, how do you have such a close relationship with your mom, but your kids are not regularly asking questions about your travels or asking to go with you or anything? You know, I getting the vibe, could be very wrong, that perhaps he was not the best father that he could be because they don't seem to be displaying any interest in his life.
That's interesting. I wonder if we're going to meet his children on this show.
If we don't meet them, I would venture to say it's because they don't care about him.
Fair. His mom goes on to say, like, what are you going to do? A meet and greet with the kids? You know, that just sounds terrible. And the mom is trying to tell him something, but I don't think he's actually receiving it. And he's like, well, you know, she's younger. She's from a different country. I was dating men. Now I'm dating transgender, and Douglas versus Aaliyah. And I said, yeah, all of those things. How are you not addressing it to your family? Like, yes, you clearly know what the issues are. Why are you not addressing them? I just, you know, Aaliyah is young. She's 25. It's going to be her first time in America. She's already like brand new to being Aaliyah. She's getting to know who she is as a person. I just want her to be set up for success. And this sounds terrible.
Right. And be safe. For those of you who are also concerned about Aaliyah being safe, we saw her on live um, with Nikki Exotica.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, at least she has a friend who is going to be able to help support and guide her a little bit. So that made me feel better.
Yeah. Jocelyn says, we met his kids. What episodes are you on? Well, like we said, we're only on episode 5, Jocelyn, so we're catching up, but it's good to know that we meet his kids. And I'm excited to see their take on this whole situation. So thank you for that. And to end on that note, his mom's worried about how his children are going to react, and I have that same worry.
His mom said something that I really appreciated, which was, I think that we're not asking the right question. I think we need to be asked, how does Aaliyah feel? How is Aaliyah going to feel coming into the situation that you have not prepared anyone for?
I love that. Yeah.
I love that his mom wasn't one of those, Aaliyah's trying to get a green card, and was instead concerned for Aaliyah's feelings and how Aaliyah will be treated.
Yep, agreed. We go to Brazil, and it's Aaliyah and her mom, and they're having this brigadeiro dessert that, again, I also want to try. And you know what I just loved about this is that I'm not a mom yet, but what I see consistently more so than not is how moms just accept their children for who they are. And I just think it's a beautiful thing. So you can imagine, again, like the deep religious roots being in Brazil, Brazilian. And the mom is just like, that's my daughter. And I'm worried about you going to America. I'm worried that Sean hasn't told his family about you. And, you know, is he ashamed of you? Because I'm not ashamed of you. And I'm praying for God to protect you. And, you know, I'm scared that Sean is keeping you a secret, and all of those things, like all the genuine mom concerns for their child was just, it was so beautiful, because you hear so many, oh my God, I'm tearing my own self up. You hear so many people that are having issues about, like, I don't know, is it the same thing, Abby, if I say people are like who are coming out versus like people who are deciding that they're going to transition? Is that the same?
Yeah, it's coming out. It's coming out. Yeah.
Okay, so you see so many people with horror stories of coming out, but then you also see these beautiful stories where the parent is like, I just love you unconditionally. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's just beautiful. I thought it was a beautiful moment.
It is.
Jessica and Juan, the last and certainly not least, because I just find their whole relationship a mess. I think Juan is a very young 31, y'all, like young, even though he's been traveling and cruising. And I think that Jessica is very middle America. And they're very, what are your thoughts, Abby, of them?
I don't like them together.
It's a weird little thing.
It's a weird, like, it's a weird, what is he supposed to do in this house with you? It's a weird, like, trophyism. I don't know. Like, the way that she was leaning on him at the bar, I just got this weird vibe of
ownership.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I said it. It was very ownership.
It was, you know how you've met people, I'm sure, especially out in LA, who date outside of their race or culture just to be different.
Mm-hmm.
That's the vibe that I get. Could be very wrong, Jessica. I could be very wrong. I could be reading the situation very wrong, but that is the feeling that I get from this whole situation.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. So, and the other thing that, like, this whole situation, you guys, I just find it very, I don't know, it's too much for me. But Megan wants to know what happened on the cruise. She, as the friend, whether she's the best friend or not, I just don't think it's your position.
It is not your business, girl.
To go directly and say, did you sleep with that girl? And then he literally is honest and said, like, I did. I'm human. I made a mistake. I felt lonely. And then Megan starts crying.
What is she crying for?
What? That's what. Why are you crying?
And why is she only mad at Juan?
Why are you crying? Why are you crying? That's not your man. That's not even your business. Why are you crying?
Have I ever cried over my friend?
No, you're not.
No, I haven't.
No, because it's not a normal reaction. Being mad and like having an attitude, that's normal. But to cry like your feelings are hurt, I just thought that whole thing was weird.
It took you a year to admit it to me. Oh. What was that? That was bizarre. This was worse than what I told you guys about last week when I sent my ex-husband to the store to get me some potato chips. And I specifically asked for when I asked for sour cream or salt and vinegar, whichever one I asked for, he brought what I asked for. And then I was mad because he didn't bring me barbecue chips. This is the same silliness, the same silly cry. Why would you bring me barbecue chips when I specifically didn't ask for those? This is ridiculous. This friend is ridiculous. She was only there the last season. The only reason why she was there was to babysit. That was your only job. Nobody asked you for anything else.
And I just don't understand. Why are you crying and Jessica's not crying? And to find out that Jessica already knew about this and she worked through it, why are you still crying about this?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just very confused. I don't get it.
Jessica's happy she's here at the bar with her little Colombian trophy.
Facts. So Awan admitted that he cheated, but then we found out that, and she forgave him. And it was a year and a half ago. So they've clearly moved on. They have a kid, the whole thing. So again, I'm not sure why Megan was crying. But they were both feeling distance in the relationship. And then we found out that she was having feelings for her ex and hanging out with her ex. And she so-called didn't cross the line. But, I mean, what does that look like?
At her home, without her kids there. We've seen her home. It's not a lot of space for hanging out.
All that. And then here's where, I just see immaturity all across the board. So, Juan, you cheated. You admitted it. You got caught, all the things. But then now you're mad because she spent time with her ex-boyfriend and you feel like you didn't know about it and now you're mad. Like, what?
Honestly, I don't even think he cares. I think he just wants something to fight about to get out of that little town. Because he's not I'm not feeling the passion in his argument. I'm just feeling like he's like, okay, here's the thing I can try to hold on to.
Whatever it is, it's nonsense. And y'all are acting ridiculous. And you probably should not have moved to Timbuktu, hillbilly town. Because I don't know. What's he going to do? Once he gets his green card, what is he going to do there, Abby? Like, what will his job be? Going from because he's from Brazil too, right?
He's either from Colombia or Venezuela. I said Colombia earlier, but
Colombia. So going from Colombia to cruise ship guide to Timbuktu, nowhere, USA. Like, what will his job be there? She
already said that there's not a lot of jobs available in that area.
She's extra regular. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see them making it long term. I think that he would try because he does seem to have some affinity towards, having a relationship with his child. He seems to be motivated by that, but I just don't see him being happy in this town. Maybe they'll decide to move together as a family, but we've seen couples before on 90 Day Fiance that actually did really love each other, which the vibe I'm not getting from them. But we've seen couples who really did love each other, but they just didn't enjoy the city that they were living in. And it became a huge problem for them, not being able to agree on where to live.
He's not going to last in that city. I put money on it.
Not many people would last in that kind of city. Like I told you guys, my college town was near a big pasture. So I did get used to the smell after a while, but there were a lot of people who were like, I cannot go to school at a place like this that has this smell.
Yeah, it wouldn't be for me at all. When I even drive by that smell, I get irritated because I'm like, my window's up. Why is it hitting me through the vents? I cannot. Anyways, you guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. And we're catching up on all things 90 Day Fiance. Come back tomorrow.
Yes.
We'll be back.
Thank you all guys for hanging out. We'll see you later.